Every morning at 6 a.m., she would arrive and prepare breakfast. She'd make the children's favorite soup, smile at each one, and gently stroke their hair. Martha was their guardian angel, but no one knew that Martha's protection wasn't limited to warm meals and kind words. And on that day, when she truly needed to be an angel, everyone would learn which world Martha really came from. Every story you're about to hear was earned, not given. Welcome to Earned Stories. Tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. And if you believe stories of silent heroes like Martha deserve to be told, don't forget to subscribe. The same scenes played out every morning in Riverside Elementary's kitchen. At exactly 6 a.m., Martha Williams would quietly enter through the back door. 58 years old, medium height, graying hair always pulled back in a neat bun. The same blue apron with small stains from years of service, the same comfortable white shoes, the same calm, purposeful steps across the linoleum floor. Her first task was always the same, filling the large industrial pot and beginning preparations for the day's soup. The children absolutely loved her soup. Tomato, vegetable, chicken, a different recipe every day but always made with the same love and attention. Martha was never in a hurry. She'd carefully select each ingredient, examining vegetables for freshness, every movement measured and deliberate. The teachers and other staff liked Martha but didn't really know her well. She wasn't particularly talkative. Beyond basic pleasantries like "good morning" and "how are you," she rarely engaged in extended conversation. During lunch breaks, she'd sit quietly in the corner, eating her simple sandwich, never joining the gossip or small talk that flowed through the faculty lounge. But it was different with the children. Martha had a special connection with them. She'd smile warmly at each child, remember their names even after years of service, and ask about their favorite foods. Little Emma from second grade had become particularly attached to her, coming by the kitchen every single day asking, "Miss Martha, what's today's soup?" Martha would always respond with the same gentle smile. "It's a surprise, honey. You'll find out at lunchtime." Principal Mr. Thompson hadn't asked too many questions when hiring Martha 3 years ago. Her resume was refreshingly simple. 20 years of kitchen experience, references available upon request. During the brief interview, she seemed calm, reliable, and genuinely fond of children. Exactly the type of person they needed for their school kitchen, responsible, caring, and unlikely to create drama. No one questioned Martha's past or dug deeper into her background. No one knew that those delicate fingers, which now gently seasoned soup and carefully sliced vegetables, had actually learned to do very different things in another life. No one noticed that her eyes constantly scanned the environment with practiced awareness, or that her ears remained perpetually tuned to unusual sounds, security alarms, unexpected footsteps, anything that might signal danger. Martha lived alone in a small, modest house just 10 minutes from the school. Her neighbors found her polite but distant. She kept her yard neat, never caused problems, but rarely engaged in neighborhood social activities. Her evenings were spent quietly, reading, watching old movies, maintaining the kind of low profile that had become second nature over the decades. For 3 full years, Martha had been the perfect employee. Never late, never called in sick, never complained about working conditions or demanding raises. She simply showed up, did her job with quiet competence, and went home. The administration considered her a blessing, reliable, skilled, and completely drama-free. But that Tuesday morning in October, everything changed forever. It was exactly 10:47 a.m. when Martha first sensed something wrong. She was standing at the large industrial stove, slowly stirring the day's tomato soup with a long wooden spoon. The children were all in their classrooms, working through their morning lessons. The hallways were filled with that particular quiet that settles over schools during class time, peaceful, predictable, safe. Then, Martha stopped stirring. Her hand froze mid-motion as she slowly placed the wooden spoon on the counter beside the stove. Her trained ears had caught something that didn't belong, the low rumble of a vehicle engine. But during school hours, no cars should be arriving at the teacher parking lot. Staff arrivals ended by 8 a.m., and parent pickup wasn't until 3:15 p.m. Martha moved quietly to the kitchen's small window that faced the front entrance. Through the glass, she saw a black panel van parked directly in front of the main door, a clear violation of the fire lane. 3 men were visible. 2 had exited the vehicle and were walking quickly toward the school entrance with purposeful, aggressive strides. The 3rd remained behind the wheel, engine running. Martha's pulse quickened, but years of training kept her expression completely neutral. Only her eyes changed, becoming sharp and focused in a way that hadn't been necessary for 30 years. She studied the men's movements, their clothing, their body language. They weren't maintenance workers or delivery personnel. They weren't parents or school board members. They moved like men with a mission, and that mission wasn't friendly. Martha didn't hesitate. From beneath her apron, she retrieved a small, outdated-looking radio, a piece of equipment no school cook should possess. With practiced efficiency, she adjusted the frequency to a channel that hadn't been used in decades and spoke in a low, controlled whisper. Riverside Elementary. Code red situation developing. Secure all children immediately. 3 subjects, armed and hostile. Within seconds, the school's emergency alarm system activated. The sound of the first gunshot echoing through the main hallway confirmed Martha's worst fears. By the time that sound reached the kitchen, Martha Williams, mild-mannered school cook, had already disappeared, replaced by someone the world had forgotten existed. Chaos erupted throughout the building. Teachers followed lockdown protocols, herding frightened children into classrooms and turning locks with shaking hands. Principal Thompson's voice crackled over the intercom, trying to sound calm while calling for an immediate lockdown. Security guard Rodriguez, hired more for his friendly demeanor than his tactical skills, retreated to his small office and called 911 with trembling fingers. But Martha didn't run toward safety. She didn't hide. She didn't panic. Instead, she walked with deliberate, measured steps toward the danger. Her 3 decades of peaceful retirement seemed to evaporate in an instant, replaced by muscle memory and instincts that had once made her one of the most effective covert operatives in Central Intelligence Agency history. Her eyes swept every corner of the hallway, cataloging exits, cover positions, and potential weapons. Her ears filtered through the chaos of screaming alarms and distant shouts, focusing on footsteps, door slams, and the metallic sounds that indicated weapons being handled. Even after 30 years away from active duty, her training remained as sharp as the day she'd retired. The first gunman was moving down the main hallway, heading directly toward the wing that housed the youngest children, kindergarten through 2nd grade. He carried his weapon with the casual arrogance of someone who expected no resistance, scanning classroom doors like a predator selecting prey. Martha approached from behind, using the noise of the alarms to mask her footsteps. The man never heard her coming, never sensed the danger approaching from his blind spot. When Martha moved, it was with the fluid efficiency of someone who had done this countless times before. One moment the gunman was walking confidently down the hall. The next, he was unconscious on the floor, his weapon secured and his threat eliminated without a single shot being fired. The second gunman had positioned himself near the 1st grade classrooms, apparently trying to force entry through a locked door. Children's frightened voices could be heard from within, along with their teachers' attempts to keep them calm and quiet. This situation required a different approach, more direct, more decisive. Martha's intervention was swift and brutal. The man went down hard, his weapon clattering across the linoleum floor before Martha secured it. She checked his pulse to ensure he was alive but incapacitated, then continued her methodical advance through the building. The third man, clearly the leader based on his position and equipment, had made his way to the administrative offices. Through the glass panel beside the principal's door, Martha could see him holding Mr. Thompson at gunpoint while shouting demands that made no sense. The principal, a kind man in his 50s who had dedicated his life to education, sat frozen with terror behind his desk. Martha paused outside the office door, taking a deep breath and centering herself the way she had been taught decades ago in a classified facility whose name she could never speak aloud. For just a moment, she thought about little Emma, those bright, trusting eyes that looked up at her every morning, that innocent voice asking about soup recipes and whether the cafeteria cookies would be chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin. Then, Martha opened the door and stepped into the office. "Drop your weapon," she said, her voice carrying an authority that seemed to come from somewhere deep and untouchable. The gunman spun around, clearly startled to see an elderly woman in a kitchen apron standing in the doorway. His eyes quickly assessed her, gray hair, gentle face, flour-stained hands, and dismissed her as a threat. "What the hell?" he snarled. "Lady, get out of here before you get hurt. This doesn't concern you." "I'm Martha Williams," she replied, taking a measured step forward, "and every child in this building is under my protection." The man raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Martha's chest, but something in her eyes made him hesitate. These weren't the eyes of a frightened school employee. These were the eyes of someone who had looked death in the face many times and walked away victorious. "You're just a cook," he said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Martha's smile was cold and knowing. "No," she said quietly. "I'm Martha Williams, former CIA operations specialist, Middle East desk, 15 years of active field duty, 8 years in South America, 12 years running assets in hostile territory. I've killed more dangerous men than you before breakfast." She paused, her smile softening slightly. "But right now, I'm these children's cook, and you're threatening my kids. What happened next took less than 10 seconds, but would be remembered forever by everyone who witnessed it. Martha moved with a speed and precision that seemed impossible for a 58-year-old woman who spent her days stirring soup. The gunman's weapon was in her hands before he could process what was happening. He was on the ground, unconscious but breathing, before the echo of her words had faded. When the first police officers arrived at Riverside Elementary 20 minutes later, they found Martha Williams back in her kitchen, stirring the tomato soup that had been simmering throughout the crisis. Her apron was still neat, her hair was still pulled back in its usual bun, and her hands were steady as she tested the seasoning with a wooden spoon. The children are all safe, she told the officers matter-of-factly. The 3 subjects have been neutralized and secured, and lunch will be ready in 30 minutes. These kids are going to be hungry after all this excitement. But little Emma had witnessed everything from her classroom window. She had watched Miss Martha move through the hallways with deadly purpose, had seen her enter the principal's office, and had somehow understood that the woman who made her favorite soup was also the person who had saved all their lives. The school closed early that day, parents arriving in waves to collect their shaken but unharmed children. Local news crews gathered outside, but the story they reported was carefully sanitized. A security incident had been resolved, no children were hurt, the suspects were in custody. Martha's real identity never made it into the official reports. Certain government agencies ensured that her cover remained intact, just as they had for the past 30 years. The next morning, Martha Williams arrived at Riverside Elementary at exactly 6 a.m., just as she had every day for the past 3 years. Same blue apron, same comfortable shoes, same calm walk through the back door to begin preparing breakfast for hungry children. When little Emma ran up to her, the question was different this time. Miss Martha, are you a real superhero? Martha knelt down to Emma's eye level, her weathered hands gentle on the child's shoulder. No, sweetheart. I'm just Miss Martha who makes your soup and loves each one of you very much. Superheroes are in comic books and movies. I'm just real. But Emma knew better. And now everyone at Riverside Elementary knew better. Martha Williams wasn't just their cook. She was their guardian, their protector, their real-life superhero who happened to make the world's best tomato soup. The story never appeared in newspapers outside the local area. Martha never gave interviews, never wrote a book, never appeared on talk shows, because that's not what real heroes do. They simply continue doing their job, protecting the people they love, living quietly among us until the moment they're needed. But everyone at Riverside Elementary School knows the truth now. The woman in the kitchen, stirring soup and asking children about their day, is also the person who stands between them and the darkness when it comes calling. This is the story of Martha Williams and of millions of other silent heroes living among us. They work ordinary jobs, wear ordinary clothes, live ordinary lives. But when evil comes knocking, they reveal who they truly are. Because real strength isn't found in loud boasts or flashy displays. It's found in quiet competence, in being ready when needed, in the willingness to step forward when everyone else steps back. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that heroes walk among us every day. Look for the Martha Williams in your own life, the quiet ones, the steady ones, the ones who never ask for recognition but are always there when you need them most. And remember, respect is not given freely. It is earned, one quiet act of courage at a time.